Lamed Zayin V'Omer Yeshiva Tiferes Avigdor. Parshas Bechukosai begins the pasuk of Im Bechukosai Teilechu Ve'es Mitzvosai Tishmoyu. V'asisem Oisam. And the question is, what is the directive here? What's the implication here? It says, if you walk in my statutes and you observe my mitzvahs and you perform them, then Hashem gives a whole series of bracha. So if you would ask me, I would tell you it's reference to, if you're Shemer Torah mitzvahs, Hashem gives you great bracha. But the pasuk says, "Im bechukosai teilechu," and then it says, "Ve'es mitzvosai tishmeru." What are the two things? What are the chukos and what are the mitzvahs? Now we know that there is such a thing called chukim. Those are mitzvahs that are not readily understood, that Hashem didn't tell us the timing for. So that's how we generally would interpret it. But in this context, Chazal tell us that that's not the way it's to be understood. So Rashi brings down from the Safra, it says as follows: Yachol Zekiyum hamitzvahs. You would think that when it says in Bechukosai Teilechu, it refers to fulfillment of mitzvahs. But Kishu Oimer, when it says right afterwards, Ve'es mitzvosai tishmeru, and you should observe my mitzvahs, so Harei Kiyum hamitzvahs Amor. So Kiyum hamitzvahs is already spoken of. Homa ani makayim. If so, how am I going to explain Im bechukosai teilechu? The answer is shetiyu ameilim baTorah. So Chazal tell us that when it says Im bechukosai teilechu, it means if you're going to be amal baTorah and you will observe my mitzvahs, you're going to get brachas. So the pasuk is singling out here the concept of ameilus baTorah, and it's putting it first. Now first you have to understand the Pashut Pshat, because once it already says ve'es mitzvosai tishmeru, isn't ameilus baTorah, which is the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, isn't that already covered by the words ve'es mitzvosai tishmeru? So why does the Torah single out ameilus baTorah? If ameilus baTorah would not be a mitzvah of the Torah, no, so then it would make sense. But ameilus baTorah is one of the 613 mitzvahs. So it already says es mitzvosai tishmeru. So why does it have to repeat again this directive of Im bechukosai teilechu? It's Baal Karchach, my Rebbe, the Meir HaLevi, Zechreinu Livracha, said, what's Muchrach and Mavur over here is that ameilus baTorah is something unique. Meaning, there's definitely a mitzvah of Talmud Torah. That there is a mitzvah, Talmud Torah. And that's one of the 613 mitzvahs. So when the pasuk mentions es mitzvot tishmeru, it includes the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. But when it says in Bechukosai telechu, it's talking about not the general mitzvah of Talmud Torah, but it's referring to a means and an oifen, a way of learning. There's a special mitzvah, shetiyu ameilim b'Torah. You should toil in Torah. Now the question is, isn't there a chiyuv to toil in all mitzvahs? All mitzvahs you have to toil. Why does it talk about toiling in Torah specifically? If all mitzvahs, I'm facing a mitzvah and it's difficult for me and it's hard for me, is that an exemption? Of course not. So of course you have to do mitzvahs if they're hard. Not only that, the Rebbe Gezak, but he said the schar of all mitzvahs is dependent upon the difficulty that a person invested in the performance of the mitzvah. Lefum, Saira, Agra. So a person has to learn, has to fulfill any mitzvah with tsar, with effort, even difficulty, and so too he has to learn Torah with difficulty and effort. So what is unique about the mitzvah of ameilus baTorah? That's separate from the mitzvah. So the Rebbe explained what is the chilik between doing the mitzvah of tefillin with difficulty or performing the mitzvah of Torah with ameilus. He said if you perform the mitzvah of Shabbos or tefillin with difficulty, that difficulty does not become a chelik of the fulfillment of the mitzvah of Shabbos. It's not a chelik of the mitzvah of tefillin. When you do a mitzvah of tefillin with difficulty, or you do a mitzvah of tefillin without difficulty, you have the same size mitzvah of tefillin. One size fits all. The difference, Gavi, is it's important. It's your sugi. It's important to think for you. It's your field. The chilik is the same mitzvah. You know what the chilik is? In the schar, you will get more schar for a mitzvah that was harder for you to perform. The fun tsaira agra. But it's not a different mitzvah. The kiyum mitzvah is one and the same tefillin. However, by Torah, the Rebbe explained that ameilus baTorah becomes a chelik of the Talmud Torah. It becomes a chelik of the Torah. Torah learned with ameilus, and Torah learned without ameilus is two different Torahs. Of course, both will get a mitzvah of Talmud Torah, but this Talmud Torah and that Talmud Torah will not be the same. When a person is omol baTorah, it's an andere mitzvah. That was step number one that he said. Then he explained that in Torah itself, there are two types of effort and tsar that you could invest in the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, and the two different efforts produce two different kiyumim, two different fulfillments. Meaning, let's say a person has a difficulty, Chaim, to go do the mitzvah of tefillin. He has to go through the snow, he has to go through the rain, and it's hard for him, and he goes to shul and he puts on tefillin, so he's going to get special schar, even though the fellow who drove to shul doesn't have that tsar, won't get as much schar, but as far as the mitzvah of tefillin is concerned, they both fulfill the same mitzvah of tefillin. He said in Torah, let's say a person walks in the rain to a shir. Very hot day, and he walks. He's in Miami, and it's hot, and he goes to the shir to learn Torah. He goes to a chavusa to learn. He doesn't wait for his father to come home from work at the end of the day before he's going to take a ride. He goes. So that fellow will get the fum tzaira agra. But his mitzvah of Talmud Torah is no different than the guy who put on tefillin and had to walk to shul for tefillin. There's nothing unique. That tsar and that difficulty does not become a chelik of his Torah. His Torah is no different because he had to put forth a difficult effort and tsar to perform that mitzvah. He gets no more of a mitzvah. When you get more of a mitzvah, is for when you're omol baTorah, when you toil in the learning of Torah itself. Now we have to define what is the toil. Where does the toil of learning begin? So he said, let's say a person, Rebbe used to say over from his father, that let's say a person is stuck on a Gemara and he needs to get a sefer, and he's afraid of ladders, but there's a ladder to climb up on a high shelf to go and get that sefer, and the guy drags the ladder over with trepidation and with fear. He climbs that ladder to get the sefer that explains the sukkah. That's called he toiled. He put forth a big effort. He was mitzayer himself. He pained himself to get that sefer. That's not called ameilus baTorah. That's called experiencing tsar in order to fulfill the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. He will get schar according to the tsar that he put forth, but he won't get a different mitzvah of Talmud Torah. What happens if a person starts to learn the Mishnah? He starts to learn the Gemara, and he doesn't know what kfisim are. He doesn't know what gvil is. And he starts to look up in the Hebrew English dictionary. Maybe he finds a Yiddish dictionary. Maybe he finds
and now, Brother Smith, the Pasik,
an art scroll.
they are stricken by the enema. Did you ever stop and think, how can we explain it? But it doesn't make sense.
And the person. Get the speaker. Get the speaker. Okay. And the person did forget about it. And the person climbs the ladder, the person starting the Mishnah, starting the Gemara, and he goes and he matriach himself tremendous tircha to find the pshat in the word. That's not ameilus baTorah. Once knew a fellow today runs a yeshiva and he says shiurim, and when he arrived at the yeshiva, he had a difficult time. He wanted to know the exact taich of all the words. And one time he was dealing with what is the meaning of hachi ka'amar. He wanted to know the exact translation of hachi ka'amar. So he approached the front of the Beis Medrash where Reb Chaim Stein was sitting. He wanted to ask Rosh Yeshiva Shaila. And he asked the Rosh Yeshiva, what's the pshat? In hachi ka'amar. Reb Chaim Stein's Yiddish English wasn't what you call Bostonian English. So he told him in the best of the way he could express himself in English of what hachi ka'amar meant. But the fellow wasn't satisfied. So then he went over to Reb Gifta, who sat on the other side of the Aron Kodesh, and he didn't have very good English. And he asked Reb Gifta, Yeshiva, what does it mean, hachi ka'amar? And he said, Reb Stein, there's other yeshivas said different. So he went running back and forth to try to make a machloikis here, to understand what the difference was. He thought he was on to some lumdis in hachi ka'amar. And it was amazing to see. I remember thinking at the time, the guy is so clueless. He wasn't 2 years old. The bacher was already 19 at that time. He didn't understand that you don't ask Rosh Yeshiva this question of hachi ka'amar. He was mavayish himself, and he exerted himself. But I thought, you know what? The guy is going to get schar lefum tzayra agra. There's no shayla about it. But what he's doing has no shaykhis to ameilus baTorah. It's not ameilus baTorah. A Rebbe at another time added that today most learning done is not ameilus. People can go their entire lives without being amal baTorah. People could go through all kind of difficulty and struggle and have to read the art scroll over a number of times. It's not ameilus baTorah. Ameilus baTorah begins, said the Brisker Rav, after a person knows the shackle of Atariya. After a person is aware of what is going on. After a person understands, Rameya says this, Rabbi Yehuda says this, he knows what is stated in the Mishnah, and then he begins to think to what's the pshat here. SHLITA is the first question. What is being said here? Something that it doesn't jump out at you on the page, but when you begin to go into the understanding of what it said. If I don't know the taich, a lot of times a person doesn't know taich, he comes over and says, I have a kasha. What's your kasha? What's the taich? That's not a kasha. It's not a kasha and it's not a kushya. It's a she'ela. It's an informational question. It's like asking, what's the name of the Masechta? That's not a kasha. That's a she'ela. And a person asks a question, that's not ameilus baTorah. Ameilus baTorah is a Gemara in Brachas that says that people going to a shir, their main schar is the hurrying and running and exerting themselves to get to the shir. That's the Ikas Chad, the Gemara says. The Gemara says, Igra de Pirka rihata. The schar of going to is the running to the shir. So Rashi says, what kind of shad is that? I thought the ikar of going to a shir because you listen. So a lot of times, many of you will miyashiv that kasha for me, because when you come to the shir, you've come here full of sleep. I put you to sleep, and you put your head down, and you zone out. So I see why you don't get schar for the learning, it's schar for the electrical. But the people that are up, the chayr should say, Igrid the pirk is schar if you stay up. So Rashi says no. You know what Rashi says? Because most of the people who come to the shir don't grasp what is being said. They don't understand. They don't fathom. They're not kriching around in the understanding. They know what the subject is. They know what the generality is, but they don't understand what's going on, and they can't repeat it. As you said, they can't say it over, so that you can't say, "Oh, where's the Torah?" That's a frightening thing. People go to Daf Yomi. It's a wonderful thing to learn Torah, but many people are under the mistake that if somebody is learning ameilus, that's for when you're yeshiva bacher. When you learn as a yeshiva bacher, so then you're amal baTorah. But when a person is the Farshim right that the ikar schar of Torah, all the brachas and all the hatzlachas and all the yeshuas that come as a result of learning Torah is be'ikar for ameilus b'Torah, for toiling in Torah. Even if a person would think of a question in the pshat, just think, I want to understand what is the machloikis, and he thinks. That's already the beginning of a process of ameilus. If a person says a question and a teretz of Tiferes, and he repeats it, he says, Tiferes asked a question, and he says an answer. That's not ameilus. Ameilus is when the person starts to say, okay, let me understand, what was the premise of the question? What did Tiferes understand when he asked the question? And now that he answered it, what did he change in his teretz? Did he change the premise? Did he keep the premise and say, shiny acha? What did Tiferes do? This is a very important thing that a person has to know when he is learning Torah. Very, very important. Now a person might think to himself and say, no, so what's wrong if I'm not toil with Torah? So what's wrong? Okay, I'll leave that for the yeshiva bacher. When I was young, and now I'm in business. Now I have things on my head. I have to pay my bills, take care of my car, take care of my house, take care of my children. I have workers, I have bosses. Well, who has time for this? What's going on? So, a person has to understand this. What in the world is the importance of ameilus? So there's a Gemara in Perek Chelik. But before I get to this, my Rebbe said as follows. There's a Gemara in Menachos about a great tzaddik who forgot his learning. So what did he do? He went to his Talmud, who he taught the Masechta to, and he told the Talmud, teach me the Masechta. So the Talmud asked him, why do you have to come to you? I'll come to you. So he says, no. If like me coming to you, it's going to be I'm going to have more hatzlach. I'm going to have more bracha if I come to you. So Rashi says, why are you going to have more bracha? Because you're putting forth tircha, and it's a busha for a Rav to come to the Talmud and learn. Teacher back is teaching. So for that you get schar. So Rebbe said that's not ameilus b'Torah. If you look over there in Rashi, it's meduyik. That's not ameilus b'Torah. Over there it's lafum tzaira agra. Avad is going to get more schar. So he wanted to get more schar, so he said, I'm going to come to you. Yeshua HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that I'm at more, I'm more putting forth effort. That's not called ameilus baTorah. Now, the Gemara says in Perek Chelik, that Tzadik Tesa Bebeis, Amar Rebbe Elazar says, Kol Adam le'amal nivra. Every person is created for amal. Every person is created for amal. Shenemar, it says, Ki Adam le'amal yulad. Now, you have to get this in your kishkesh, you have to train this to your kids. Mothers destroy their children, fathers destroy their children, people destroy themselves. I hate to work hard. I've heard that over and over. I don't want to burden my child. I don't want to make my child work hard. Their children, when they get older, they'll work hard, right? Just like you. A person has to know that Adam la'amal yulad. People are born to toil. Well, how come you don't say, I always tell this to parents, how come you don't say, when it comes to your children working hard, then you say, well, let them grow up. But when it comes to them making parnasa, you want them to train now to get a good understanding, to deliver newspapers, to sell things, sell lemonade, because you want to give them an idea to work in the summer, get a sense of responsibility. That you don't want them to wait till they get up, because by you, that's the tachlis of the life. That's why by some people, they refer to parnasa as tachlis. I always tell you, the father called me once up, and he said, Rebbe, he said, Ma yeh tachlis. He said, I asked my son, what's he doing in yeshiva? And he tells me he's learning Gemara, learning more Gemara, he's learning Mefarshim, he's davening. I said, Rebbe, what's going to be? He says, Rebbe, what's going to be with the tachlis? I said, I hope your son is successful in the yeshiva, and he'll be zeichet to have a lot big tachlis. He says, no, I'm talking about the tachlis. You're not preparing the boys for the tachlis. I said, what are you talking about? He said, Panusa matahayoleh. What's going to be the panusa? How are they going to make How are they going to make a life? How are they going to make a living? I said, no, we don't call work over here living. No, we don't call it a living. By us is kihem chayenu. That's the limit HaTorah. That's what by us is called a living. That's what's called making a living. Work is a necessary evil that we have to do in this world, because that's what Hashem made Gzeira upon other Mauritian when he first sinned. So it's Gzeira. That's not a living, it's not the tachlis of living, it has no shaykhs to live. But the Gemara does say, Adam la'amal nivra, a person is created to toil. So now, you have a choice. The Gemara, Eini Yodeya, I don't know, Im la'amal pe nivra, Im la'amal malacha. There are two possibilities. You can be created to use your mouth, to talk and talk and talk. What does that mean, talk? The Gemara's Mavur, Amal Peh means the toil of Torah. Most people don't toil when they talk. They enjoy chatting. They love talking. It's not toil. So what does it mean, toiling B'Peh? That means learning Torah. That is what is one way of understanding it, Amal Nivra. The other way is understanding it, La'amal Malacha. So many people didn't stay to the end of the piece of Gemara, so when they heard the Shaila, La'amal Peh, and La'amal Malacha, they decided on their own, Pshita, Mai Kamashvon, it was so surely created, La'amal Malacha, because no one would be created, La'amal Peh. And they ran out of it, and they started going to look for a job, and they went to work. The Gemara says, Ki shu'aymer, when it says, Ki okaf, alav piyu, that means that the peh forces a person to work. Heavy aymer, from that I say, la'amal peh nivra, that a person is created, la'amal peh nivra. The Maharsha points out over the interesting, the word amal is lilmoid al minas lilamed. That's what the word stands for. Amal is lilmoid al ayin minas lilamed. It is. It's unbelievable. A person pashut is created. Now the Gemara says, "Va'adayin eini yedea," but I still don't know klor. Who says it's la'amol Torah? Maybe it means la'amol sicha. Maybe a person's a social animal, and Hashem wants him to socialize. You should talk to people, engage people, mekar people, friendly to people, stories, jokes, good hack, good chadoshes, good new news. Who's getting divorced? Who's in a fight? People like this kind of stuff. Who's sick? Who's moving? Who's running away? People like that kind of stuff. So, when it says, "Lo yamush sefer haTorah zeh mipicha," when it says, "The sefer haTorah should not leave your mouth," have the Yomer, I know, la'amal Torah nivra. Can you believe this? It's unbelievable. Off in the Gemara. It says, and that's what the Omar Rava said, Kulu Gufe, all bodies, all people, deruptike are toilers. Ninu, they are. That's you have to know. They're toilers. Someone who's learning Torah is breaking himself, he's toiling, he's trying to plow the hard earth of his head and of his heart, and this is what he's trying to accomplish. That's why the Gemara concludes by saying, Tuve means fortunate, Toiv, lidizoche vaheve deruptike. Fortunate is the one who's zoicha and is tareach in Torah. That's what you have to do. V'aviruptike deraisa and his Torah. So we see from this Gemara that ameilus baTorah is not simply a maila. It's not simply a nice thing for people who are in yeshiva or in kollel, but it's for the purpose of every person in the world. Because you work and you toil, and that's why you can't toil in Torah, because you toil at work, you're not going to be exempt for 1 second from your obligation of toiling in Torah. You work too long hours, you're too tired, make sure you toil less at work and you leave some time for toiling in Torah. You're not sure. How does a person know? Sometimes a person, it makes, in some rare occasions, a person is still in Mitzrayim, but in most cases it's people's choice. It's like I told a guy, when you go to work, why don't you listen to at least a Torah tape and get yourself a little bit involved in learning? He said, I like music. I just want to calm down. I want to relax. I want to chill out. That's your choice. Here's a person who has Sundays off. Do you spend Sundays learning? Absolutely not. So what do you know from that? Here's a fellow called me up from Lakewood, was most impressed by him. He told me he feels very guilty because on Sundays he only learns till 12 o'clock. I said, that sounds to me pretty nice. He said, why till 12? Why shouldn't I be regulating a man on Sundays? What's my excuse? That I have 10 kids? I had 10 kids at Koil, and I still learned all day. I work on Mondays with my 10 kids. What kind of excuse is that? So I'm duly impressed. If you understand that, you should be learning more. You definitely should be learning more. But a person understands, it's not an excuse. Shabbos, why aren't you learning on Shabbos? The answer is, you don't want to. The sad thing is, you don't think you have to. Now, the first ra that people do is that they don't fulfill the purpose for which they're created. And this is a very important thing. You know why? Because I'll tell you. Over the years, you will meet people who will tell you about their gewaldige cash. Or maybe someday your children will ask you the question, By the way, do you know what the purpose that we are created for? What does Hashem expect us to do? So, the answer you will hear when that question is posed, Avi, what do you think the general answer that people answer in that question? What? No. That's not what people say. You know what most people say? Oh, that's the $1 million question. If I knew the reason why we were created, I would have the secrets of life. It's a pella. A guy once came to my house, maybe 30 years ago. A guy came to my house, and he had his head full of hair. And my daughter asked me, Tati, is he a guy? And the guy was all, whatchamacallit. I said, how could you know the difference? You don't look Jewish. You're not wearing any type of kippah. You're not wearing any yarmulke. How should my daughter know? You look like a guy. You talk like a guy. You act like a guy. Why are you taking them personal? So he has a question that nobody was able to answer in Mamish. No rabbi, no priest. He's spoken with his friends. This Mamish eats him up. I told him, I'll tell you the question. I know the question. I'm a free thinker. I'm an original thinker. I told him, give me a break. I told him, I'll tell you the question. I told him it's one of two questions. I said, one question is, why was man created? No one knows the answer. And the second question, genius question you had was, if the Lord, if Hashem exists and Oid Avinu Chai, why doesn't he come down and say, I am the Lord? Why does he say that? You know how many wars would stop? You know what peace would reign in the world? You know how many doubts would be resolved? You know how much strife would be? The answer is those questions are asked. The Gemara says, you created to toil. To toil in Torah and develop yourself a Torah mind and a Torah heart, and to become a person who not has just knowledge of Torah, but you understand it and you're plummeting the depths of it. That's what the purpose you created for. When you see a person who's doing that, you should stand in awe and reverence, because of that person is you're finally meeting a person who's living for the purpose for which he was created. Adam la'amal nivra. No. So let us mechazik ourselves. Let us take our inventory as we march we climb the mountain toward Kabbalah Satorah of Shavuos, another 13 days, and try to be mechazik ourselves in our ameilus baTorah, to think in the Torah, deeply into it, to try to understand it, not just a simple taich, and let's act according to the way Hashem intended us to live.